Now, another one of y'all hit us up with a question about how the ACC could potentially get more than one team into the college football playoff. So a conference champ plus someone else. So they hit us up and they say, okay, try on the scenario for size. Notre Dame loses to Virginia. Footnote, Notre Dame's a 23-point favorite over Virginia. So this is asking a lot right now. It's asking a lot. But if it happens, okay, let's keep it rolling. Georgia loses to Tennessee. So Georgia at this point in time is a 3-loss team. Conventional wisdom would say, well, hey, 3 losses, you're not making the college football playoff, right? All right, we'll talk about that later. That's the scenario. Georgia loses, 3 losses, we move forward. Same deal with A&M. They lose and catch their 3rd loss to Texas. Clemson and Louisville both win out. So Clemson would be 10-2. Louisville would also be 10-2, I believe. Miami beats SMU in the ACC championship. How many teams would the ACC get into the college football playoff? So there's a lot there, right? Obviously, Miami, as the ACC champ, would be in. Who else gets in? I think to look at the ACC, you got to look at what's around the ACC. So the focus here for a lot of people with the college football playoff, we'll start with the SEC because Georgia and A&M both have 3 losses. Okay, got it. Tennessee and Texas, I think you probably feel like are the teams that would get in from the SEC as a lock, with them being the teams in this scenario now that would be in the SEC championship game. Okay, so go ahead and pencil that in. Bama and Ole Miss at 10-2, I think they're in. All right, so the SEC pretty firmly gets 4 teams there, in my opinion. The Big Ten, I think, also firmly gets 4 teams in this scenario. Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. However you want to dial up the madness there, be my guest. I think that's how it would look. Forget who wins the conference, forget who's the at-large, whatever. You got 4 teams there, so we're at 8. I'm going to say that the G5 rep we're also factoring in here, so you got 9. Now remember, Notre Dame, they would lose to Virginia. 23 points, asking a lot, but they would lose to Virginia. So Notre Dame at 10-2, they will not be in the college football playoff. Massive, massive Jenga block. That opens up a path for another team now that we're not considering, potentially from the ACC or somewhere else, to be in the playoff. The other massive Jenga block, I think, here, that's not factored into this hypothetical, but I think we should. What happens in the Big 12? Scenario 1, if we're going to say that chalk holds and BYU plays Colorado, if BYU is undefeated in the conference champ, cool. Nice and neat and tidy. We're all good. 1 team from the Big 12 gets in. If BYU gets knocked off in the Big 12 title game by Colorado, well, BYU's resume, I think, is actually still pretty solid. And remember now, Notre Dame, they opened up a playoff spot. So I think my answer there would be, I don't look to the ACC. I look to the 1-loss runner-up of BYU, who I've said how I feel about them. It is what it is. I've said how I feel about BYU. But with the resume and based on the number of spots opened up now, you got 2 top 25 wins if you're BYU, and you got a loss to, call it a top 15, more than likely, Colorado team in the Big 12 title game. I think I'd take a 1-loss Big 12 runner-up in BYU before I took a SMU as the runner-up with 2 losses. So that's one scenario. The other potential thing that could happen here, this is where it gets real interesting, real juicy. Remember who we had losing early on in this hypothetical? Georgia, right? 3 losses. I mean, Georgia's 3 losses in this hypothetical are all to teams that are in the college football playoff. In this hypothetical, Bama, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Let's go ahead and say the Tennessee game is close. Let's say that Tennessee does have their starting quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, and you lose that game by a field goal. I think 3-loss Georgia, I don't know if they get in over a 1-loss BYU as the conference runner-up, but I think Georgia with their schedule, with the eye test, I think Georgia would have a strong case now if Notre Dame opens up that spot to be in the college football playoff. That in itself would be madness, but I think it's possible. So my answer here, to put it pretty bluntly for our ACC audience, unfortunately, I think you only get 1 team. I don't see a path where if Miami beats SMU in the ACC championship and everything happens that you just laid out, I don't see a scenario where the ACC gets more than 1 team into the college football playoff. The Hard Count, brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks Daily Fantasy, made easy to use, easy to withdraw what you win. Again, when you use code HARDCOUNT now, just for playing $5 in lineups, you get $50 in promo funds. So that's $50 at no expense to your own real bank account you can use to go buy some Christmas presents early for your family and friends. And who doesn't love that? All right, so prizepicks.com. Appreciate y'all using that code and appreciate them for bringing you the hard count today.